Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mio on MMA Podcast, talking about UFC Vegas. I think we're on 111 now. I could be wrong. Check the title. The title will be correct. But we're back at the Apex for a second consecutive week, which is less than ideal because it means that we go from a weak Apex card to a weak Apex card. And this card is better than the last one. I will say that on paper. We'll see if it delivers. The main event is probably a more interesting fight because there's always like this hope that Randy Brown will put it together, and of course there is the hope that Gabriel Bonfim will become something really cool. But the co-main event is, listen, it could be a good fight, but match now fights are officially in the sad department. And then you have Salikov versus Medic, which feels kind of like an obvious result. Bonfim, the other Bonfim, versus Padilla. That's not too bad. Marco Tulio, Christian Leroy Duncan. That could be good. It could also be really, really, really clinch heavy and like dull. Because Christian Leroy Duncan has two versions of himself. And it really depends on which one comes out to play. Jamal Emmers versus Hyder Emil. That's a banger. Actually, I'll give that one. Ronnie Barcelos, Ricky Simone. That's a banger. Mayra Bueno Silva versus Jacqueline Cavalcanti. This is another one that, like, okay, don't get me wrong. I don't think this is going to be a great fight, but it is a fight between ranked fighters, a former title contender, or challenger, I should say, in Mayra Bueno Silva, probably a future title contender in Jacqueline Cavalcanti. It should be on the main card. And again, I had this point last time about Norma Dumont, Ketlin Vieira, which I thought was going to be a bad fight, and it was. It doesn't matter that they're bad fights because we're putting bad fights on the main card anyways. So, bad fight with importance does trump bad fight with no importance. So, there you go. And Josh Hockett, why? Versus Max Jimenez. Actually, I totally get why Hockett's here, and he's not actually a bad prospect, but his gimmick is going to get... it's going to get old faster than Colby Covington's, I think, honestly. Tisha Pennington versus Denise Gomes. I'm here for that. Miles Johns versus Daniel Marcos is not a bad fight. Jackson McVeigh versus Zach Reese. This fight has been so many different things. It was supposed to be McVeigh versus Robert Valentine. Robert Valentine pulls out with a back injury. In steps Deontay Johnson for some reason. Apparently that was never actually signed, but they were promoting it. And that's gone now, which makes sense. Johnson fought last week. And now it's going to be Zach Reese versus Jackson McVeigh. So none of those ideas were particularly good. I guess the Johnson one was the best because I have a little bit of hype for him, but that was about it. And we get into the anti-gambling bet here, which honestly, I don't even think I'm going to say anything. I'm just going to say, look at last week's card, which had one almost certainly fixed fight with Isaac Delgarian and two other fights that are apparently under investigation. Including one, and I don't know what two they are, but one better be Cedricus Dumas versus Deontay Johnson because I 100% think that was a thrown fight. The UFC apparently disagrees because they re-signed Dumas for some reason. Why? I've been through this. I've been through this. I understand that the UFC is going to sign people that I find reprehensible. It's gonna sign criminals. People who have broken the law. People who are guilty of being more violent outside the cage than they are in it. But why Cedricus Dumas? He is bad. He is crap. I guess it gets people to talk about it, but like again, given that I am very certain that he fought through that fight against Deontay Johnson. Not trying to take it away from Deontay Johnson. He fought well, but Dumas fought really badly. Anyways, we're having a fun time talking about like how fights are being fixed and all that jazz. So if you ever needed a reason not to bet a lot of money on MMA, it is here. In addition to the chronic inbuilt chaos of the fights, we have thrown fights. Anyways, let's talk about the main event here. It is Gabriel Bonfim versus Randy Brown. I'm a little surprised to see that Bonfim is a favorite to win by sub. That's a bit weird. He's a minus 185 to minus 190 overall favorite, plus 146 to plus 160 on Randy Brown. Last time out, Gabriel Bonfim defeated Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and I was impressed and also let down. I was impressed by the fact that against Wonderboy, who, let's be honest, is one of the more evasive fighters despite his age in the weight class, Bonfim was able to put up reliable pressure on him. And I appreciate that. That's more than I thought he was going to do. It was very impressive in that regard. Now, the downside is that while doing that, he basically lost all of his lethality because while he could take Wonderboy down, he couldn't do anything with it. And while he could hit Wonderboy hard, he was almost afraid to do it. So there is that problem. He's fighting a 6'3" guy, Randy Brown. Honestly, you can basically just play my Phil Rowe thoughts in the fight against Ko from last week, and it's the same thing. It's like there's always this great question of when you go out there and you're fighting a relatively athletic, rangy guy, are you going to just instantly be like, oh crap, this is scary, I don't know what to do, I freeze up? Because we've seen that from a guy like Elizeu Zaleski against Chidi Njokuani of all people, where Zaleski, who is this banger, this destructive force, this destroyer of worlds in a lot of ways, just looked like he didn't know what to do, and that's kind of a problem. In a nutshell, that's a big concern if I'm being entirely honest. And actually, to a certain degree, Zaleski's fight with Randy Brown kind of also went like that as well. So there you go. And his fight with Neil Magny. So it happens to the most insane, crazy, and confident fighters of us all. And Bonfim is a guy coming off a fight that he did look, I don't want to say afraid because it's the wrong word. I don't want to go that far. But apprehensive, not confident in imposing his own game on the opponent. And that is, to me, a bit of a problem. At the end of the day, I am going to take Gabriel Bonfim. Now, the reason is that I do not trust Randy Brown. I can't do it. Randy Brown has all the physical tools to be an amazing fighter. He's 6'3". He has a 78-inch reach. He's athletic. He's fast. He's smooth. He's surprisingly technical. And he's surprisingly well-rounded, actually. Like, he displays skills in a lot of different areas in fighting. So what's the problem? Well, it's his decision-making. He is the king of guys who developed a bad mindset that they didn't have to make smart decisions in fights because of their athletic gifts early on. And it's still enough to beat people who don't really have a game plan to tackle them. But Gabriel Bonfim showed in a boring fashion that he is capable of formulating a game plan that is not his normal ilk and going out there and applying it. Not necessarily applying it well, but that there is a conceptual ability to game plan and stick to it within his brain and game. And that's why I'm going to take him. He is a pretty good offensive wrestler. He is a pretty good offensive grappler. He is a good striker when he is feeling it. And if he can indeed pressure and neutralize Brown's range, because, again, he did it to Wonderboy, and don't get me wrong, Wonderboy doesn't have the physical frame that Randy Brown does. He doesn't have that upside, but he does have, again, really good footwork to be evasive and keep range. Brown does not. Brown has allowed some pretty plodding fighters to get close to him and do damage. So, am I going to be surprised if Brown wins? No. I'm not going to. You could put Brown up against virtually anyone in this weight class and he could win, and I would not be surprised. He has the physicality, the size, and the base level technical skill to do that. And Bonfim may just freeze up when presented somebody huge. But I'm going to pick the guy that at least is trying to be a reliable fighter to win by decision. This could be really bad. It could be really good, but it could be really bad. This is a very hard to make of what it's going to be fight. The co-main event, I can't say the same thing for. Matt Schnell is a plus 260 to plus 330 underdog, and Morales is minus 350 to minus 430. That's Joseph Bobo Morales, the winner of the Ultimate Fighter recently. Morales is not I said this when he won the Ultimate Fighter. It was actually kind of a bad thing for him to win the Ultimate Fighter because we've seen him in the UFC before. He did fine. Don't get me wrong. He is a middle of the road action wrestle boxer. There is a place for him. It's even a relatively fun place, but it's nothing that really kicks this division in a high gear. I can't pick Schnell against anybody. Schnell has become increasingly not durable. His defense has never been good. And the loss of durability means that without the durability and without the defense, I just can't trust him. I am bizarrely going to say that this goes the distance because Morales is the wrong kind of finisher. He's not a one-punch power shot guy. He's not a front headlock guy. He's not even really a backtake guy. He's actually kind of weird for the Team Alpha Male type because they're known for the guillotines, the rear naked chokes, but like his wins are like triangle chokes a lot of the time. He actually like picks up stuff from bottom. Like he can obviously do it. He beat Roberto Sanchez in his only UFC win in his first time around by rear naked choke. So like he has it. He's got a couple others too. But his submissions tend to be just against people who cannot grapple. And for all of Matt Schnell's problems and issues, he can grapple. He grapples in an aggressive manner that does leave things open for submissions, obviously. He's been tapped out by Cody Durden. He's been tapped out by Brendan Royval. He's been tapped out by Tim Elliott back on The Ultimate Fighter. These are, however, a lot more dynamic submission guys than Morales. Morales is a positional submission grappler. So, yeah, I'm going to say it goes the distance. I'm going to say Schnell has his moments because I do think Schnell is a better striker. But Morales is a better wrestler. He's a more durable and defensively sound fighter. And while he's not a big hitter, I don't think it takes a big hitter to hurt Matt Schnell at this point. And I don't think I even touched on the fact that Matt Schnell keeps trying to retire and then coming back. Which is, it's not a good sign at the best of times. And it's especially not a good sign when you're getting absolutely pile driven into the ground by your opponents. So there is that. Third fight on the card, or third fight from the top, is Muslim Salikov versus Uros Medic. I'm going to be blunt here. Picking a 41-year-old Salikov always feels nervous. It feels concerning. It, however, at the end of the day, feels very much like it feels about as good as you're going to feel fighting a guy or picking a guy in his 40s, is what it comes down to. He is a sound, solid defensive striker. He is a sniper. He is not high output, so there is a way to beat him. But the way to beat him is to wrestle him or to just outpace him and not give him the opportunity to land clean. That's not Medic's game. He doesn't really wrestle. And his defensive striking is amongst the worst at 170. This guy dropped by Gilbert Urbina last time out. So Salikov is going to get the opportunity to hit him and hit him hard and hit him clean. And I'm picking him to do that. So underdog pick of the day, plus 120 to plus 135 on Salikov, minus 150 to minus 165 on Uros Medic. Actually kind of wondering, I don't usually get into prop betting, but I'm curious here. What's the TKO deal? Yeah, the TKO is at underdog. So you can get plus 195, plus 1... looks like about plus 175 to plus 215 for Salikov by TKO. And that's a line I feel good about. That's a line I really, really feel good about. I don't know about the under-over if there's any potential there. This is a favor to go under, so I wouldn't really touch that one. But yeah, I mean, it's not a terrible booking. It's just one that doesn't have any stakes to it. Salikov is too old to really be a thing moving forward. And if Medic beats him and doesn't do it by showing off like a drastically new skill set, it'll just feel like it's a Father Time victory as opposed to a Medic victory, if you catch my drift. Finishing off the main card, we have a pair of interesting fights here between Ismail Bonfim, aka Bonfim number 2, and Chris Padilla, and Marco Tulio and Christian Leroy Duncan. I'm going to talk about these kind of in the same vein here, because I think the fights have an odd similarity to them. So with Bonfim and Padilla, you have Padilla, a guy I have full admission underestimated. I did not think he would have success in the UFC, and it has happened. So keep that in mind. And at the same time, to a degree, I can say the same thing about Tulio. So you might figure out where I'm going with this. I'm picking Bonfim and Duncan. Now, in Padilla, you have a guy who has a strong wrestling background, and when he is just wrestling, it's pretty good. And he has developed a relatively heavy-handed but awkward striking game. Now, the problem with Bonfim, or with Padilla, pardon me, is that he does not do both at the same time. When he's trying to wrestle, his boxing game goes away. When he's trying to box, his wrestling game kind of goes away. Now, it has still been good enough to get a win over Jai Herbert, who I do, despite his mixed results, think is a good fighter. And obviously, I have to respect that. I have to respect the durability. I have to respect the power. I have to respect the heart. I have to respect the scrap. The issue is that Bonfim is just a cleaner version of him. Bonfim's issue is that, like, against Benoit Saint Denis, he had definitive issue at range. And then against Nazim Sadikov, he really couldn't punch with Sadikov to a certain degree. Now, he was winning that fight very early on, ended up getting stopped on the stool, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Or was it the doctor? I forget which it was. But it was one of those, like, 5-minute stoppage type deals where Bonfim was... Hang on, let me just look at Tapology here. That'll probably help me out here. Yeah, doctor stoppage. Right. It was a doctor stoppage. It was one of those fights where, like, he just couldn't deal with, like, the power and the damaging aspect of Sadikov. And obviously that wound up with a loss for him. And in this fight, he's going to have control of the range, because Padilla, despite having a 74-inch reach, doesn't really have a range game. His boxing game flourishes at mid-range. So he's going to come to Bonfim. And like I said, very defensively vulnerable. Bonfim has counters. Bonfim has wrestling that could possibly be utilized as well. He's a quality grappler. And as a result, I think that his more optioned game will get the win. And it's the same with Duncan, because I have faith in Tulio to be violent, but he is solidly limited by the fact that I don't think he has a dominant physical aspect or a dominant technical aspect. He is violent, he is heart, he is scrappy, and he will go out there and he will put it on you. But Christian Leroy Duncan has the options. There is a limit to his game, which is twofold, basically. Number one is I don't think he's terribly comfortable as a mid-range fighter. And number two, his regional game was essentially, hey, look at this stuff I can do. Whack. And he'll do something cool, and then the opponent will be like, so I don't really want to do this anymore. And they either panic or they just let him kind of pick them apart. And in the UFC, people don't do that. They're going to keep pressing the options. They're the right kind of crazy to still want the fight afterwards. And that is Tulio. But then Duncan has another layer. Duncan actually has, number one, he's actually pretty durable. He went the distance with Gregory Rodriguez, which is impressive. And he has a clinch game that held up pretty well against Rodriguez. Like, he got out clinch, but, like, did well. So I just think that in the Duncan case, Duncan's going to control the range, be the guy to win the range battle, and then also be the guy to win the clinch battle. So I get to pick some guys who I think the odds are fading here a little bit. Bonfim is the favorite at minus 190 to minus 210. Padilla coming back at plus 150 to plus 165. Tulio is minus 185 to minus 200. Duncan is plus 150 to plus 160. So I get to make two pretty bettable lines there for Duncan and Bonfim. And I understand that at the same time they're both facing guys that I've underestimated. I didn't think that they would be fighting on a main card, and I'd be going, you know what? They kind of belong here, at least on an Apex main card. But here we are. They're both going to be fun fights, I think. Well, okay, I shouldn't say this. Bonfim versus Padilla is going to be a fun fight. Tulio versus Duncan, there is a clinch blanket possibility there for Duncan that Tulio just can't necessarily respond to in any way, shape, or form. So that one is not guaranteed. There's a good version of that and a bad version of that, and let's hope for the good version. So picking decisions in both, picking Bonfim, picking Duncan. Bonfim at a favorite odds, and Duncan at underdog odds. So that's not too bad at all, and that'll kick off the main card. Then we get to the undercard, and after picking two guys who can control a fight, I'm going to go the opposite here with Jamal Emmers versus Hyder Emil. Emmers is the underdog at plus 125 or 120 to plus 125 at minus 150 to minus 156 for Emil. Emil is chaos and power. He's going to come forward. He's going to throw hot shots. He's going to do it with impressive physicality, somewhat lackluster technique, open defense, and Emmers might be able to capitalize on that with his own boxing and wrestling. However, Emmers has a real history of just kind of never really putting it together. If you look at his record in the UFC, it is basically beating guys who are lackluster athletes, lackluster physicality, guys who cannot threaten him. I'm talking about guys like Gabriel Miranda. I'm talking about Denis Bazushka. I'm talking about Kushin Ashkabov. I'm talking about Vince Cachero. These are pretty unimpressive wins. Don't be wrong, I like him. I like the bare tools that he has, but every time he's faced somebody who brings that element of chaos, like a Nate Landwehr, he got knocked out. And even when it was like a guy like Pat Sabatini, he got submitted. So, not saying he's like the most, knockout prone guy ever, because I mean he does have decisions with Giga Chikadze and Jack Jenkins, who are big hitters, but he's also been knocked out by Juliana Rosa. He's been knocked out by Thiago Moises. It's a trend, and he was waiting to fight Austin Bashi in this fight, and then Bashi pulled out, and now he gets Hyder Emil. So he's gone from a wrestling heavy, very minimal striking guy to a guy who is very aggressive with his striking and very powerful. So, yeah, I do have to go with Hyder Emil by knockout. Part of me hopes that Emmers can pick it up, because I've been hoping Emmers would put something together for a long time. Like, the bare bones of his game is like very good, but he's now 36 years old, and that just probably isn't going to happen. Ricky Simón versus Ronnie Barcelos. This is a pure age pick here, and I'm picking Ricky Simón by decision. It's a shame, because when Ronnie Barcelos got signed by the UFC, I was like, rush this guy up the list. He's a very good wrestler who has actually a powerful boxing game, and they didn't. They let him have a 5-fight winning streak that was against guys who were not very good, outside of beating Said Nurmagomedov very early in his run, and it didn't result in the high-profile fights that I wanted to see. And I also feel bad because he beat Peyton Talbot, and Talbot's up here fighting Henry Cejudo, and Emmers is getting, or not Emmers, Barcelos is getting Ricky Simón 2 fights later after also having beaten Cody Garbrandt. So it just feels like this. It feels like this should be a way bigger deal, and Ricky Simón is kind of disrespectful because Simon's stock is a little bit down. He had a very dark period there where he kind of lost himself, wasn't as aggressive, wasn't as volume based as he needs to be, or as wrestling based as he needs to be. But recently that's come back against Cameron Smothern and stuff. So I just see Simón fighting a guy who is 38 years old, putting the pace on him that a 38-year-old Ronnie Barcelos probably cannot keep up with. A stoppage is not impossible, but Simón is, well, a good one-shot puncher. Barcelos absolutely can get hurt, but he recovers pretty well, and I just don't see Simón having the follow-up for it. So Simon's wrestling and pace to take the win. And just, 33 versus 38 years old at 135. One's an old man. One is getting there, but not quite there yet. And Simón doesn't seem to be in physical decline, even if his confidence has been shaky. Simón by decision. He's the favorite at minus 163 to minus 180, plus 130 to plus 150. Then we have Mayra Bueno Silva versus Jacqueline Cavalcanti. I talked about this fight. It should be on the main card because it is a very, very relevant rankings-wise fight. However, that does not mean I think it's a good fight. It's not. Mayra Bueno Silva has the power, the dynamicism, the athleticism, the grappling credentials, to be a very, very good fighter, and has actively not been that her entire career. She does not close the gap very well at all. She does not disrupt range very well at all. And she's almost entirely reliant on people making mistakes or just not being able to compete with her on a physical level to actually get wins. And it shows when you look at her losses. She lost to Marina Moroz, a fighter who can control the range pretty well. She lost to Anna Firo, who controls the range very well. She lost to Raquel Pennington, who has a range game. doesn't even control range all that well. Has a loss to Jasmine Jasudavicius, has a loss to Macy Jason. And, of course, her biggest win is that Holly Holm fight. Otherwise, it's Lena Landsberg, who has to clinch with people. It's Stephanie Egger, who has to clinch with people. It's Yanan Yu, who has to clinch with people. She also has a draw with Montana De La Rosa. That's just not good. Yeah, I can't pick her here. Could she win? Yeah, sure. She could catch a hot shot. She could catch a submission in transition. There are ways. Like if this fight ends in a stoppage, it's almost certainly MBS doing the stopping. But I've got Cavalcanti. She's a long, rangy fighter. She's got a good outside game. It is a pure volume game with very little danger of actually finishing a fight. But it's active. It piles up volume, and it's relatively smart at avoiding the exact type of things that Mayra Bueno Silva is pretty good at. You can close her down. It's just Mayra Bueno Silva is that bad at closing people down. So Cavalcanti by decision, she is minus 250 to minus 275, plus 198 to plus 220 on MBS. Josh Hockett versus Max Jimenez. Full disclosure, I said it earlier. I hate the Incredible Hawk character that Josh Hockett has. Josh Hockett is a pretty good prospect. He's a former practice squad level tight end and fullback in the NFL. He is somebody who played very serious college football. He's got athleticism. He's got some ideas of how to grapple. He doesn't have really what I would call a good striking game, but his hands are fast. He's aggressive. He's powerful. And if it wasn't for the mix of Colby Covington and Hulk Hogan with a little bit of unintentional Ultimate Warrior in there, I would probably be fully game on this. And for the record, I don't think the people who agree with his politics should like his character either, because his character is essentially boils down to the following. Pay really bad people money to come fight me and get knocked out. But pay them. Like, I don't understand that logic. I don't understand the idea of like bringing terrorists and PDF files in to fight a guy and pay them. Like, I don't know. To me, that seems very, very weird. To me, that seems very bizarre. I think he even had one where it was like, send me the illegal immigrants. I will beat them up. And it's like, why? Why is anybody good with this? Anyways, it's a bad pro wrestling gimmick that probably does mirror his terrible, terrible real-life politics. I do have to pick him to knock out Jimenez. Jimenez is a good grappler. He has a very solid resume, including going to ADCC, beating Orlando Sanchez, and so on. He's had a very good career as a grappler. But he doesn't seem to really be able to get to it in MMA. It's the classic jiu-jitsu problem, similar to like Marcus Buchecha, who debuted against Martin Budai a little while ago. It's the same kind of idea, but with like way less athleticism than Buchecha brings to the table. There's not really a takedown game that is functional there. And as a striker, he does seem to have some pop in his hands, but like that just makes him a heavyweight. So you have a guy who's been knocked out by a bad fighter who does not have very good hands, who does not have a very good takedown game, who does have good grappling, but needs the other guy to take it there, versus a guy who does have a penchant for grappling. So there is that option, I guess. Hockey could take it down and get subbed. That would be hilarious. But a guy who does have NFL fringe level talent and doesn't seem to have the Austin Lane glass cannon issue. So yeah, I gotta go with Josh Hockett by TKO, even if it's a sadness hedge to a certain degree. I will laugh so hard if he wins, or if he loses, though. Minus 400 to minus 455 on Hockett. Plus 300 to plus 340 on Jimenez. Is he the biggest favorite on the card? Because I wouldn't agree with that. I don't think you should ever have the debuting guy in the UFC be the biggest favorite on the card, unless we're talking about something like a Bo Nickel or somebody who has like that kind of background. I guess Joseph Morales is a similar favorite. Is he a bigger favorite? Hockett minus 4. Hockett is the biggest favorite on this card. Okay, I don't really agree with that, but at the same time, I can't bring myself to actually bet on him on Jimenez. Anyways, Tisha Pennington versus Denise Gomes. This one I will be betting on because I'm surprised that Pennington is the underdog at plus 148 to plus 155, and Gomes is a minus 184 to minus 190 favorite. Gomes is not a bad fighter. I like her. She's got a little bit of pop in her hand. She's got talented striking. She's got some grappling ability and some wrestling and scrambling ability. It's just I feel that you look at her 3-fight winning streak. It's over Elise Reed, who is a profoundly unathletic fighter, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, who is just done, let's be honest, and Eduardo Mora, who, if Mora could just bring herself to ground and pound, probably would have won the fight. And we're putting her as a favorite against a girl whose losses are the following: Thug Rose, Jessica Andrade, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Weili Zhang, Marina Rodriguez, and Mackenzie Dern. There is one non-champion
on that list. It is a very serious Marina Rodriguez. And I know Tabitha Ricci also beat her. That decision was bullcrap. Also, Ricci is a pretty solid fighter in her own right. Anyways, so yeah, I'm taking Pennington. I'm taking Pennington to be the busier striker. I'm taking Pennington to be the cleaner technical striker. I'm taking Pennington to be the better wrestler and the better scrambler. It's I know she's 36 years old and she's never developed any kind of like knockout power, which like truly befuddles me. But yeah, this is the level she wins at. You know, it's going to be competitive because, as stated, she doesn't put people away, and she doesn't really comfortably win fights outside of very, very few occasions. Let's see here. When was the last time I think that Tisha Pennington won a fight that was like undoubtable? I suppose it was when she stopped Sam Hughes and absolutely crushed her eye and made us think that Sam Hughes wasn't no good. And then before that, you'd have to go back to like Juliana Lima. But, like, you know, this is a woman who lost a split decision to Tabitha Ricci, a split decision to Mackenzie Dern, a close fight with Marina Rodriguez, a close fight with Weili Zhang, or at least as close as he gets with her, a close fight with Joanna Jędrzejczyk, at least as close as it gets with her, a close fight with Jessica Andrade, at least as close as it is at a decision, a close fight with Thug Rose, and also has a win over Thug Rose back in the day. So, yeah, I've got to go with Tisha Pennington. And that's kind of really all there is to it on that one. I don't really understand the underdog there. Miles Johns versus Daniel Marcos. Johns is the... Why do I have him as the favorite here? I'm pretty sure I've got these odds backwards. Just a second. Yeah, I do. Daniel Marcos is the favorite. Let me correct those on here, please. I feel like I had those in the right order, then I switched them. Anyways, Miles Johns fights are really quite easy to predict, honestly, because there's basically three versions of a Miles Johns fight. Version number one, it's the Cody Gibson, Vince Morales, Dan Argueta fights, which he wins. Guys who just can't physically compete with him. Version two, guys who can physically compete with him but are similarly just brutish. Douglas Silva, D'Andrade, Jan Matsumoto. These are toss-ups. He beat D'Andrade. He lost to Jan Matsumoto. Matsumoto, I think, will be better in the long run, but right now he's kind of just a brute. And then there's the third type of matchup, which is what we have here, which is someone who can physically match him or come close. And also has the concept of game planning, creativity, and pace. And that's Daniel Marcos. And he loses those fights. Marcos, I'm a little bit worried about because he's coming off a loss to Montel Jackson, where he just looked... he looked intimidated by Jackson's physicality, but Jackson is also like really tall, really huge in a way that Johns is not. Johns is a physical fire plug, don't get me wrong, but he's 5'7". Marcos is also 5'7", and he has a lower reach than Marcos does. So the range is not as impressive as it is with Jackson, nor is the power. So yeah, I foresee Johns going out there and putting up a good fight with a wrestle boxer meat and potatoes game. And Marcos to just do cooler things and more varied offensive attacks and so on, and be fast enough and diverse enough to pick up the W here by decision. Johns is tough as crap, so he's not getting finished. But yeah, there you go. And then finally we get the short notice fight of Jackson McVeigh versus Zach Reese. This is so short notice that there's only one vote as of right now on Tapology, and it's one vote for Reese, so it's 100%. I don't think I've ever seen a fight that had 100% on it. I thought it was broken for a second. Anyways, neither of these guys are really UFC caliber. What it comes down to is they're both big, and they're both good clinch fighters, and they're both aggressive, and that's how they got to this point. They're 6'4", 77-inch reach apiece. At 185, they are huge. They are the range and height of 205ers, essentially. The reason I would take Reese here is simple. Reese is actually a good athlete. McVeigh is not. McVeigh is a subpar athlete who has to get away with highly aggressive technical, not even technical, just highly aggressive, active clinch work, strikes in the clinch, takedowns in the clinch, submission hops, and so on. And against Bruno Ferreira, he just got overpowered and just basically rolled over. And Reese will probably do the same thing because Reese is 6'4" and Ferreira is a 5'10" guy who should probably be fighting at 170. So there you go. Reese by TKO. I will say it's an iffy pick just because Reese is coming in very short notice. He's a pretty big weight cutter to begin with. So I'd be worried about a weight miss here. Unless this gets moved to catch weight. I don't think it is right now. It's 185. That's stupid. This should be like a 195 catch weight or something. So bad on the UFC given all of their current bad propaganda with fight fixing and fights falling apart. This fight card lost a lot. We're supposed to have Austin Batchy versus Joel Emmers, which was a really cool fight. We're supposed to have Daria Shaleshnikova versus Leda Santos, which is not great. Christian Quinones versus Adrian Yanez, which was going to be a good scrap. Robert Valentine, Jackson McVeigh, I can do without that one. And then also the Luna Santos rebooking with Melissa Croden, which got rebooked or rescheduled. So yeah, I would be doing a lot more catchweight bouts for these late notice things just to make you look like an actual professional promotion, but that's just me and not Dana White. So odds on that one, Reese is the favorite at -300 to -335. Don't bet on this fight. It's a short notice fight between two guys that I don't have any confidence to actually fight well. And +235 to +250 on McVeigh. If you're going to bet on this fight, bet on McVeigh, I guess. I don't know. Like, there is no sense in ever betting on Zach Reese at favorite odds. And especially not on this short notice. Anyways, I will see you guys after the fights with my recap. And also, check out the links down below for my video game stuff, my Discord server, and all of that fun, because there is going to be some fights tomorrow on the Discord server. And I think, call me crazy, you guys will enjoy it, as well as just the general company and the Fight Masters League. So there you go. And also, Super Big Baseball coming to the Twitch channel and YouTube soon, as well as a wrap-up of the Mech Warrior 5 playthrough. So, if you're into big shooty mechs or virtual baseball, have a look.